All right, everyone, it's time for the second half of our player grades for the 2024 season for Orange County Soccer Club. Last week, we went through the first half of the roster. Now we're getting to the big minute players for this episode. We got some extra voices to help. I know last week you enjoyed it with just me and Dylan, but now we got some more voices to talk about this. Let's get this thing started. Welcome to the Show of Champions. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. How's it going, Orange County? Welcome to another episode of the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only podcast dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Samora. I'm here to take you through this journey as we give player and coaching staff grades for Orange County Soccer Club. Helping me out to this episode. First, the one that helped me out last week as well, we've got Dylan. Dylan, are you ready for more grades?
I've got a nice big bottle of beer with me. So much like your teachers and your professors all through school, yes, I'm ready to do some grading.
And if you missed last week, I was a little hard on Dylan last week, and I think I may do that again this week. That's why he's preparing with the big bottle of beer. Hey, helping out.
Stick it up, Samora.
Helping out again, or helping out now. He wasn't here last week. We missed him. Brad, how are we doing?
Man, Dylan almost made me spit out my scotch that I was sipping on because I did not expect Dylan to have a beer, let alone a 22-ounce mega beer of dark ale, if I stand correctly. That's like one of the high percentage ones, right?
It's just to be clear, we are talking 750 milliliters, which is
a wine bottle,
1.4 ounces. But yeah, we're at 7.6% here. So,
oh my god, a whole wine bottle. In the California winters.
He's drinking a wine bottle today. Fun stuff, Dylan. Last helping us out for this episode, one of the smarter people on our show. That's DK. DK, how we doing?
Doing well. Yeah, as always, you give me far too much credit. But since everybody was sharing what they're drinking, I made myself an old-fashioned for this fun off-season episode that I always look forward to. So cheers, everyone.
And I didn't even share what I'm drinking. I'm drinking a BJ's Alt Beer, which is part of the Beer of the Month Club option. So that's what I'm drinking. Hey, I pay a fee every 2 months. I get beer to drink, and I'm not going to let it go to waste. I'm going to drink it. It's actually not that bad, Dylan. Dylan's making a nasty face on that, thinking that it's pretty nasty. But it's actually pretty good.
I'm going to hop in here and say, hey, if you're a local brewery or distillery and you would rather that we drink your product, hey, reach on out to us, info@ocsepodcast.com, and let's have a chat.
Definitely. Let's have a chat when it comes to that. Well, we're enough talking about beers, enough messing around. We got to get into the thick of things. It's wrapping up the player grades for Orange County Soccer Club 2024. Again, this grading system, there's no rules to it, even though I know people like Brad and Dylan wish there was some sort of rule to our grading system, but there isn't. So it might get a little wonky. Just bear with us. It'll be fun. Let's get into the thick of things here. And I'm going to let one of the two that wasn't here last week, I'm going to let Brad start things off and introduce our first player for this episode in the grading.
Yeah, our first player, I have no idea where you guys left off, Mr. Foxy. Okay, so we made it a decent amount down the list this year. Mr. Foxy played 17 games, 15 of those were starts, dealt with a handful of injuries over the course of the year. Major stats of concern that we concern ourselves with: 1 assist, no goals this year, 6 chances, and 2 yellow cards. Ray, since you threw me on the spot first, I'm going to ask for your grade first.
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot after I put you in the spot, and I'm not even ready to share my grade, but I will do so. I just need to clear the hiding spot for me. I gave Andrew a B-. I was pleased with the moments he was on the pitch. If you weren't with us last week, Brad and DK, I'm not going to penalize him for being injured like one of our other co-hosts on here seems to like to do. I felt like he was solid, could have done better, but could have been a lot worse. So I gave him a B-. let's potato it over to Dylan.
I and no disrespect, Andrew, I gave him a C plus. I think he is a great player, and availability is kind of an issue. I think. That being said, he was reliable when he was called upon and did everything needed. Much like a handful of people that we'll probably talk about, and we talked about last week, he suffers by nature of being a good player, and thus expectations are very high for him. DK.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Dylan on basically everything that he said. I also gave him a C plus. And I think it just kind of comes down to that my expectations were a little bit higher for him. I think he had some really good games. I think he had some fairly just okay games. And the inconsistency is what really just kind of drove me to give him that C plus. Wish we would have seen a little bit more out of him. Would love to see him return next season and see him progress. So not bad, but not as good as I know he can be.
Since I started this off, I'll go last. I actually think that a C grade is a worthy grade for him. And this isn't a knock on Foxy, the player, as we know. And this isn't even a knock on his health. Unfortunately, when it comes to Andrew Fox's grade, I think he was just simply beat out when he was healthy by both Powers and Knockham for those two center mid opportunities. And when he's beat out by two, given two legends of Orange County, it's going to knock you down the peg a little. When he was on the field, he was good, yet not stellar. And I think C is very fair for that. And my co-host, who is not on the episode this week, Mr. Larry, agrees with that grade, gave a regular C.
Perfect. I'm going to let DK introduce our next grade.
All right. Our next is the legend himself, who's been with us for a while and a fan favorite, Dylan Powers. He had 17 matches played, 15 starts, 1,209 minutes, one fantastic goal. And I believe Dylan, you started out. Dylan and Dylan.
Well, I mean, it's only fair as one sexy gent to another sexy gent. I gave him an A. I never expected the evolution of Dylan Powers as a center back from what he could do in the midfield, but he really adopted the role and just looks so steady next to Marcus back there. I'm over the moon with what he did this year. I'm so glad that we got him back because I think he was a key part to us objectively actually being quite a good team towards the second half of the year. And what a goal in Memphis, right? If that goes to PKs, who knows what happens. Dylan Powers said, "No, don't worry about it, guys. Everybody hop on my back. I got this." Also, just one of my favorite interviews every single time. The Zen Master. Brad, now that you're back, what'd you grab him for this year?
Yeah, I gave Dylan Powers a solid B plus this year. Again, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing he played less minutes than Foxy, but yet I remember a lot more of Dylan Powers this season. And I think it's just because when healthy, Dylan is like one of our best center backs. And I would even say that over Knockham, who is absolutely stellar in his own right. That overtime or extra time goal against Memphis, Dylan, you said it. What happens if that doesn't go into what happens if that goes into pens? Probably a disaster class where we're really upset a week earlier in the season. And he's just such a good player. I think B plus is fair.
Who do you want to go next?
Go for Ray.
Let's go Ray.
All right. So what I've learned is if healthy, Dylan gives Dylan a A+++ grade because apparently Dylan doesn't get penalized for being injured. My grade for Dylan, I thought he had a great season with us. I don't account for injuries unless they were boneheaded injuries or something like that. I gave him an A-. I thought he was really solid for us. Slightly not as consistent as last season. I think last season was an outlier. He did really great in the role he was put in, but I still think he was solid for us. And that partnership with Nakim is amazing. And it was a great thing to see when these two players were on the pitch together in 2024. And I believe, did DK give his grade?
Not yet, no. Once again, I'm going to have to agree with our Dylan, and I also gave Mr. Powers an A. He may not have gotten as many minutes as we would have all liked to have him on the pitch for, but I think he did fantastic every time he was out there. I think Brad kind of highlighted that with saying that, he's somebody that we noticed more, even if he was on the pitch less. And just looking at that stat, the 12 chances created, although he's done fantastic in taking on that center back role, I think it's amazing that he's still creating chances for the team as a midfielder would do. So that to me, it carries over from last season. I think he did just as great. And maybe it's a little recency bias with that fantastic goal in Memphis, but I gave him an A. And it looks like our other co-host, Larry, agreed once again with Brad and gave him a B for the season.
And I'm going to say this really quick for those watching or listening watching live, feel free to share your thoughts on the grades. And again, just share why I'm getting them perfect and everyone else is messing up on these grades. Put that in the comments so we can share that with the world. Moving right along to our next grade of the night, and that grade is going to be for Seth Kasipli. Seth, one of the longest tenured players in the orange and black and also creamsicle colors. Another player that had some injuries throughout the season, but when healthy, was a solid contributor to Orange County. I think fans have come to know what to expect out of Seth when he's out there. Looking at the stats, just under 1,300 minutes, had a goal, 4 assists, great pass accuracy, almost 86%, and 3 yellow cards. 21 matches played, 15 starts. Great. And I think it's sort of what you come to expect from Seth year in, year out, that type of play and that type of stat line on there. DK, since you've been going last every single time, I'm going to let you go first on the grades this time. What did you grade Seth?
I've been going back and forth with Seth just the past few days of either B+ or what I decided to finalize on, which is an A-. And I think what kind of did it for me is just getting reminded that he did have 4 assists of the season. Again, I think, every time Seth was on the pitch, he was extremely helpful to the squad and kind of crucial while he was there. So I loved what he did. I think it was just like last season, one of his better seasons for Orange County. And, hopefully he just keeps getting better and better. And hopefully that means we'll see him again next year. Brad.
Yeah, I mean, Seth Kasipli, I'm a homer. My grades are always inflated when it comes to former Reno players. And, Seth, we know what to expect with him. He's going to put in a lot of good performances. He's not going to make the mistakes that you see the younger guys make. He's not going to be the flashy player. And therefore, I gave him a B+.
Dylan, what'd you do?
I'm just going to go next because Brad didn't decide to nominate somebody else. Really quickly, I'm just going to say Larry's grade for Seth Kasipli. A solid A. And I'm going to go with an A-. And Seth, please don't be mad at me. Look, man, you're really good. And like everybody, you're suffering from the fact that I expect the world from you. But we're talking about somebody that slotted in and has previously kind of been maybe almost playing second fiddle to a Kyle Scott. Has struggled with fitness and, has had some really bad injury luck. That was the case towards the beginning of this year. But once again, we're talking about another player a senior player, bides his time, gets fit, makes an immediate impact and takes things away from us. Ray, what did you get Seth Kasipli this year?
I gave him an A. Again, I felt like he was a very solid piece for Orange County in the midfield. A very congested midfield when you look at it. And we go back to the beginning of the season, you had players like Sophia and Jafal in the midfield as well. And then obviously Kevin Partita, Kyle Scott in there, Ashish Chada. It's a very congested midfield, typically maybe 2 spots open for a group of 5 or 6 quality players. So obviously Seth's not going to get action in every match in that type of situation, but when he was called upon, did amazing. And I appreciate what he did for Orange County this season. So I went with an A. Let's go move on. Dylan, introduce the next one.
Yeah, Mr. Ryan Dogman. I'm just going to give a lot of credit right now to DK and to Matt Elder and myself for coming up with that chant. We deserve A pluses for that, by the way. But Ryan Dogman, a little bit of injury woes this year towards the beginning. 21 matches played, 17 of those were starts, 1,357 minutes, 2 goals, 2 assists. I really want someone to mention one of those goals. I'll leave it for you. Ever the attacking fullback, 47 touches in the opposition's box, and 4 yellow cards, because why not? I love Ryan Dogman. I did expect a little bit more from him. So Ray, you can give me all the trouble you want. I gave him a B+ here. Why did he deserve something better, Ray? Please tell me.
Why did he deserve something better? He was probably the most exciting defender to watch on this team, and no disrespect to someone like Marcus Knockham or Owen Lamb or Dylan Powers. I think anytime Ryan was involved in a play, fans were excited. For a defender, we talked about this last season. He runs and runs and runs, and we saw that again this year. Joining in the attack, being very involved. I mean, how many times did we see him up in the attacking third of the pitch? And this is as your left back for a team. And whenever he did that, you never felt worried about the defense because you knew he was going to track back and do his job. I'm amazed. If I could teach my defenders how to play an outside defensive position as a player, I would show them videos of Ryan Dogman and also Owen Lamb. I think both of them are amazing for this team, the way they play. That's the style of wingback I like to see and the defenders play. So I gave him an A. Brad, what did you do?
Oh man, when it comes to a player like Dogman, I think I penalize him a lot for I expect so much on the attack from him that the fact that only 2 goals and 2 assists and really a lot of games where he kind of was anonymous on the attack really docks him. I wanted to go as low as a B-, but I don't think that's fair given the fact that he's not a liability on defense, even when he plays so much of the offense. But I just expected so much more. And I love Dogman. I hope he comes back. I hope we see more out of him. So I gave him a regular B.
DK, let everyone know why I was right.
Well, not that I like to admit it, but yeah, I do agree with Ray on this one. I also gave Dogman an A. It could be bias on my part. He's one of my favorite players on the team, was last season, was this season. The reason for my A is mainly because whenever he was missing, it was extremely felt. And when he was there, at least his side of the field seemed covered almost every time. And, look at that, touches in the opponent's box, 47. Yeah, we could definitely wish there were more assists and maybe even more goals, but that's asking a lot for a defender. And I think he did exactly what he was supposed to, and I think he propelled the team forward every time that he was there. So I gave Dogman an A, and I hope he's back next season solely so that I can sing his chant more and more and more. Oh, and Larry, I believe, agreed more with Brad and Dylan, and he gave him a B as well.
Yep, a B from Larry, but let's not worry about that. DK was correct on his assessment of Ryan and the grade. Dylan, you wanted to chime in?
Yeah, I just want to say I gave him a B+. How dare you, Sully?
You did. I'm sorry. I'm getting those pluses and regulars mixed up. So
it's okay. We're all drinking. On to the next player, please, producer Andy. Ashton Miles. Where to begin other than I didn't expect him to play, and then he just kept playing. And he never seemed to have that big drop off that a lot of young players and especially young defenders seem to have. He was resilient. He played through a really torrid time for the club, but he was always available. 27 starts. Sorry, 27 matches. 18 of those were starts. 1,700 minutes. 1 goal, 2 assists, 27 interceptions, 22 tackles won, and just 5 yellow cards. He is a player I'm so excited to see the future of Ashton Miles. I'm so excited to see him hopefully with Orange County next year, and also just where he's going to end up 5 and 10 years down the line. Because again, we are talking about somebody that is 18 years old, which is incredible. He might be 19 now. Point being, we love Ashton Miles the same way that we love Dylan Powers. I gave him a B+. And Brad, if you don't mind, what'd you give him?
Yeah, I hate to go and play the spoiler for you. He's 20.
Have 2 years really passed?
Yeah, he is still, still very, very young in comparison to all of us old folks here on the retirement podcast. But, Ashton Miles, he, like you said, was on the team during a very difficult time morale-wise to be on the team. Still a good defender. I don't think defense was the problem on those teams minus the Louisville and the Charleston games. And I don't think that he was really a part of that nonsense badness. I gave Miles a B. No issues with him this season. DK, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Brad. That's an academy prospect from Orange County that has made his way to the first team and made a splash this season, which I think, like Dylan said, nobody expected, but everybody was pleasantly surprised to see how well he held up, being in the first team, getting 18 starts, which is just fantastic from one of our academy kids. I think a B, simply because I don't think that he was, perfect. Not that any of these players are perfect, but I think he has a lot to still grow, and I think he has the time to grow with that. And I'm really hoping that he does all that growing and progressing with Orange County. So hopefully next season we can give him a much higher grade and we see even more starts.
For my grade, and let me just, before I even share my grade for Ashton Miles, I'm going to say this. If there was a betting line for over under for minutes played for USL players, regardless of where the number would have been set, no one would have picked over for Ashton Miles heading into the season. He surprised us. Like Dylan said, he kept playing and kept playing and kept playing. The only reason he lost playing time is because there are 2 absolute beast legends in front of him in the pecking order. And I'm not even looking at Andrew Fox, who I think was ahead of him in the pecking order also. But you have Marcus Knockham, Dylan Powers, who, regardless how well Ashton was playing, if those 2 are healthy, they're the ones starting and getting a majority of those minutes. Only reason Ashton didn't get more minutes this season and more playing time. And it was one of those things where you look at, you weren't really that nervous when he was in there. Yes, he made a couple mistakes. He's a young player. It was his first year getting full-time minutes. I talked about it last week. I grade a little bit on a curve when it comes to younger players. I might be a little bit more lenient because I'm looking at the production from them based on the experience and the future. For Ashton Miles, you all were wrong. He deserved an A- this year because he was amazing when he was on the pitch. And again, only reason he didn't get more minutes was because of the great center backs we had on this team this year. I think, Brad, it sounds like you want to jump in.
Yeah, I got one more thing to say. And, big shout out to Ashton Miles' character. Who remembers him coming on the show this year with an American flag in the background and just being one of the most wholesome guests we've had all season.
Captain America.
Yep. Before I move on, Larry's grade was a B+ for Ashton Miles. So let's go ahead and move on to our next player. So big typo on this slide here. It looks like we should be at 1,691 minutes for Mr. Captain Marcus Knockham. And, where to start with Knockham? I will go first this time. He's a beast, just like all of our center backs that we have on this team, all 4 of them who got good playing minutes this season. Defense was not our strong suit. And unfortunately, We needed them to be in the forwards. Knockham, though, great player. I gave him an A- on the year, and I don't think that that's a bad grade for him. Dylan, what say you?
Yeah, first I'm just gonna offer Larry's grade because I don't know, it's fresh in my mind. He gave Marcus a B, so everybody, yes, Brad's making a face for those who are just listening. The next time you see Larry smack him, I don't know, that's insane. That is far too harsh. I gave him a B plus, which I wrote that down last week, and on second thought, feels like it should be an A minus, if not an A. I will say that the resounding thought or memory that always pops its way into my head is anytime that he scores, he finds the County Line Coalition. And for years, all we wanted was a player to acknowledge us after scoring a goal, coming over to us, whatever it is. Marcus does it every single time. The vibes are immaculate. He gives Dylan Powers a run for sexiest player on the team. It's a 25-man tie, actually. DK, what'd you give him? Since the man crush continues.
Oh yeah, huge man crush from me as well. This is our captain, and I think you got to rate him on being the player that he was, the center back that he was, which was, absolutely wonderful. And I think without our defense this season, that we don't make it as far as we do. And I think you also have to grade him on who he is as a captain, which is somebody that brings the team together and the fans. So I've gone kind of back and forth as well. I would say A- for what he did on the pitch, but because of who he is as our captain, I'm going to actually give him an official grade of
A. Let me say this, because Dylan was talking about, wanting a player to just recognize and celebrate with County Line Coalition. If we recall, when he scored the below the belt goal, he started running in the wrong direction and realized it halfway through, ran around the goal and over to CLC. That's how much Marcus loves celebrating with the fans, especially the CLC. It was an amazing thing to see on there. As for my grade that I gave for Marcus, I went with a B plus. So I actually agreed with you slightly there, I believe, Dylan, on Marcus. I feel like, and again, I talked about last week, I'm harsher on the veterans because you sort of have these higher expectations. And as much as I love Marcus, I don't think his season in 2024 was as good as his season in 2023. And thus I couldn't give him something in the A's. I went with a B plus though. All right. DK, introduce our next.
Sorry, I was muted. The one and only Bryce Jamieson, who, has been a fan favorite since he has joined the squad. Probably one of our best young, talented players to ever come to Orange County. He had 33 matches played, 22 starts, 1,913 minutes, 5 goals this season, 3 assists, 30 tackles won, 79 recoveries, and 2 yellow cards. Fantastic season for Mr. Jamieson. And Ray, how about you go ahead and start with your grade?
Ooh, I get to go first with the grade for Bryce Jamieson. I will definitely do that. Bryce Jamieson, an amazing year for Orange County. I was definitely impressed with what I saw out of him. We all knew the talent was there. We all knew how good of a player he was. He just needed the minutes and the opportunity. And this year he got that. 33 matches, 22 starts. And anytime he was in there, you were looking for something exciting. Yes, you probably were hoping for some more goals or some higher assist numbers out of him. But again, remember, he's a very young player out there, 18 years old. Now, obviously, it sucks because we all know his future is not with Orange County. That's an obvious statement. I don't think anyone can disagree with me there. But we had a magical season from him this year, and he proved that you put in the work, you get the opportunity, and Orange County is going to give it to you. You're going to have some nice big things coming your way. And I'm anticipating some big future moments for Bryce Jamieson away from Orange County. Here's my first perfect grade of the year. I gave Bryce Jamieson an A+ in 2024. Dylan, I know your grade isn't going to be as perfect as mine, but what did you give him?
I gave Bryce Jamison an A. A young player. Just wow. I think so much about the brace that he scored in Colorado. It just, sure, 18 puts the team on his back, and unfortunately we couldn't get it done for him that day, but he deserved to be out there. We all year long we talked about, when are we going to see Benjamin Barjolo? When are we going to see Benjamin Barjolo? Hey, sorry, Ben. Bryce Jamison is in incredible form playing in front of you right now. So, ride the pine for the time being. But I just love a player that's unpredictable. That is the adjective he used to describe himself. And I'm thrilled with what he offered. I hope we get to see him next year. Something tells me he has earned a spot at the next level. And so I'm rooting for him wherever he ends up.
Pass it on, Dylan.
Yeah. Sorry, Brad. Why don't you just take it from here? I'm dropping the ball.
I understand. You totally pulled a Brad on passing it off. Unfortunately for me, while I think Bryce Jamison is one of the most talented players on our team, I wish I got to saw a little bit more of that talent actually come through on the field. I would just look fondly back at when he scored a brace against Colorado Springs, and we had him on the show that weekend, and we got to talk about it. Unfortunately, that was in a losing effort, but other than that one game, and he had a couple more great moments, there were so many times where I was watching the game and he was playing, and I'm like, where's Bryce? I know he's one of the most talented players out there. He's fast, he's skilled, he's good on the ball, he's good off the ball, but I don't see him out there. And he was out there in those games, and I just really, really wish that we got to see him really put in 10 goals this year. I gave him a B. I'm probably harsh, but I'm a harsh grader. DK, save this from me being a negative Nancy.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't end on Brad there with the downer. I definitely do think that you're being harsh, but I understand a little bit of what you're saying. I think the beginning part of this season, there was a little bit more to be desired from Bryce. And I think that we saw the reason that it was more to be desired is because of what we saw last season. But I think, you look at, won that Colorado Springs game, I think one of the best goals for the team all season. And then the second half of the season where he was just absolutely dominating on that side and, really being somebody that brought it into the final third for us so many times. I think he had a fantastic second half. Unfortunately, because of that, I can't give him like a perfect score like Ray, but I say an A- because he was still absolutely stellar and came into his own, when we needed him to. Oh, and then Larry gave him a B as well. So, man, Larry agrees with you, Brad. Seems like you guys are pretty on par this time.
I feel like that's been a lot of our grades together this year.
Yeah, definitely. And like my name says, boo, Larry and Brad. Moving on to the next next grade. And this is is Ashish Chadha, midfielder, again, in that very, very congested midfield for Orange County. And you look at the stats, he got plenty of minutes there, and partially because of injuries in the midfield to players such as Kevin Partina, Kyle Scott, and even Seth Kasipli at times, put in some solid work for Orange County. Probably doesn't stand out much for what he did, but if you watch, he tends to be pretty controlled and composed in the midfield, which is what you want out of his role on the pitch. Dylan, what did you think of Ashish this year?
It's funny you mentioned that you might not notice him, but he's doing all this kind of like unknown work. This is maybe a kind of a pointless term, but there's a kind of a resurgence in the term of donkey work as being a good thing. It is just doing dirty work and showing up and getting stuff done and trying really hard. That's Ashish. on this team. We're talking about a progressive midfielder that was just thrust into playing left back out of the team's need, and he wasn't great at it, especially at first, but he was there and he was available and he tried, and we didn't hear anything negative about him. Once he actually ended up back in the midfield, Ashish got to shine, and we got to see that player that we were all so excited about last year and that player that we were also excited about at the beginning of this year. So I gave him a B+. I hope we get to see more of him. I hope we get to see, more of him in the midfield as well. DK, where do you fall on Ashish?
Yeah, I'm glad you went right to me because I have the exact same grade. Once again, Dylan, as a B+ for Mr. Chada this season. And I think he's one of the players on the pitch that no matter what, he's going to give 110%. He's going to put his all into everything. And I think that shows with him, stepping up to play any position. And I think that's exactly what you want from a player when needed. If injuries are, troubling the team too much, Ashish Chada is the guy who will step up and take care of what needs to be done. I think he's somebody that stepped up with Kevin Partita being gone, with Kyle Scott being gone. I think he was somebody who really just filled in where he was needed and performed extremely well. Of course, I would have loved to see maybe even some more starts from him, maybe some more pushes forward in the attacking third, but from what I did see from him is definitely a solid B+. Brad.
All right. Well, for me, I know I wasn't on last week's episode, but when you look at the players in the midfield who started for Orange County this year, the direct comparison that I have for Ashish's style of play is Kevin Partita. And I know since I wasn't on last week's episode, I didn't get to share my grade for him, which was a B+. And when I compare the two side by side, injuries notwithstanding, I think Kevin Partita was the better of the two players on the field this season. So I can't give Ashish Chada a B+, which he probably does deserve. I did tack him down just a little to a B. Look, he was there. He was everywhere. He played left back. He got a good couple of assists on the year. But does he start over Kyle Scott? Does he start over Kevin Partita? Does he start over a healthy Seth Kasibli when all three are healthy? Maybe not. Maybe. I'm not the guy who makes those decisions. So therefore, I think a B is justified. And before I hand the ball over to Ray, surprise, surprise, Larry agrees with me. I swear we're not copying off each other's homework. Ray, throw this show back on the rails, please.
Yeah, I don't believe you when you say you're not copying off of Larry or he's not copying of you. We can't say he's copying off you because he already filled these in. And he's not even on the show right now. So I think you're looking at what he did and put it on yours. Here's the thing with Ashish. And if you look at the history of Orange County, almost every season you have at least one player on the roster that has roots through UC Irvine, which Ashish is one of those players. You can go back to Giovanni Ramos-Godoy, Matt Bierman?
Mats Bierman, yes.
Yeah, whatever it was. So that connection is nice to see that Orange County looks at the local college level players out at UC Irvine, and we tend to have some sort of connection there. Would I love to see a bigger connection? Yes, because that's your pipeline right there to try and get some of these great players, try and work a path for the players that come in maybe at young ages, pre-college ages. Maybe they decide they want to go to college, find a way to get them to UC Irvine, Cal State Fullerton, Long Beach State, something local, and then maybe have a pathway back to Orange County if everything works out for them. It's awesome to see those types of connections. I would love to see more, even not just UC Irvine, but if you can get some Cal State Fullerton connections, or like I said, Long Beach State connections, or some other local university connections, it would be awesome to see. As far as the grade for Ashish, I already told you what I thought of him this season. When I introduced him, I went with a B+. So again, I agreed with you, DK, on his grade. I feel like he was solid when he was out there, and I was shocked when I saw how many minutes he actually played. I don't remember him being out there that much this season, but apparently he was. And there's good and bad if you don't remember someone playing. It means they didn't do anything amazing to make you remember them, but they also didn't do anything horrible to make you remember them out there. And when you're in that midfield role and the type of role that Ashish plays for this team, you don't expect him to stand out and have these, highlight reel moments. It's really more a role of don't make a big mistake that's going to cost the team something. And apparently if he played that many minutes and I didn't recognize or remember that many minutes from him, he's doing his job. Brad, take us on to the next.
Yeah, I mean, when doing direct comparisons, like I said, Shish Chada and Kyle Scott. And I mean, Kyle Scott, what can you say about him? He's the guy who is worth everything and more in this world. He is our British golf pro. I never thought I'd ever say those two words together. I guess their part of the world did, 3 words, thank you, Dylan. That part of the world did invent the sport. So either way, what can you say about him? He is Mr. Reliable. He is aggressive in the midfield. He earns the yellow cards. He got on the score sheet this year, I think for the first time in Orange County colors. He does everything. He's probably our best defender on the field, and he's the guy who, when you're watching the stream, when you're watching the game, he's making big plays. Unfortunately, late down the stretch, injuries did take out his season before playoffs, and while that sucks, that's just life. I feel like for me, it's hard to give a bad grade to a player named Kyle Scott just off of name recognition and anything. And I wanted to give him an A because I think he deserves it. So I gave the A- of minuses. We're talking like an 89.5 rounded up for school. But it's Kyle Scott, and he's worthy of the A.
I'm just going to jump in because Brad pulled a me and didn't nominate somebody. Hey, Kyle Scott, maybe literally put the team on your back this year, and that's why we didn't see you at the end of the year. Seems the most likely, if we're being entirely honest. Yes, this was his goal this year was the one and only goal that he's scored for Orange County, but there's probably nobody else in this league that you would rather be spraying a ball around the field than Kyle Scott. And nobody else in this league that you'd rather be running their mouth at an opposition player than Kyle Scott. So I gave him a B+. This is only because, once again, I expect the world from Kyle Scott. And I just feel like through no fault of his own, we didn't really get that out of him this year. Keith, DK?
Yeah, I'm both. Yeah, I don't think it's a secret to anybody on this show, or if you know me in the stands, I love Kyle Scott. I think Kyle Scott has definitely been one of my favorite players in the last few years, and I think he's absolutely clinical to the midfield. I think when he's gone, you can feel him missing, and when he's there, he's the foundation for everything that happens. I was kind of going back and forth between a B+ and an A- with Kyle Scott as well, because I definitely don't think he was able to shine as much as he did last season. But I ended up going to an A- in my last thoughts, because a lot of the articles that I wrote, post-game analysis of, Orange County this season, was that Kyle Scott was the funnel for the team. Anytime somebody needed to make a pass, anytime somebody needed to get out of a bind, they passed it to Kyle Scott, and he was able to get it to somebody else, generally moving forward. I think Kyle Scott was absolutely crucial, and so to me, he deserves an A- for all the effort that he did, and we hope to see him back.
I'm going to start off with Larry's grade, and someone please check on Larry and check on his head, because when he was doing these grades, he must have got a knock on the head. He must have been a little woozy or a little off, because his grades are wonky, or maybe he needs glasses. I don't know. He gave Kyle a B for Kyle. Let me tell you my thoughts on Kyle really quick. And while I'm doing so, just think about it. If you agree with me or disagree with me, still like this episode, please like our post. Please share this with everyone, because we love when our fans and our listeners do that, and it helps get our show out to more people. And please agree with me on this. Kyle Scott is the centerpiece of our midfield. As much as Kevin Partita is a great player, as much as we've talked about Ashish Chadha played a big role in midfield, Seth Kasipli, Kyle Scott is the glue for this team in that midfield. And let me also say this about Kyle Scott. If there was an award for the most frustrated player on the pitch in 2024, Kyle Scott is winning that award. And he showed it. And I appreciated seeing his frustration out there. He was giving his 135% of his body out there, and his effort and his just soccer out there on the pitch. And it wasn't always going the right way for Orange County. But Kyle Scott did not back down. He always was trying to give us all. Yes, some of those yellow cards were out of frustration. Some of those yellow cards were just like, you know what? I don't give a damn. I'm going to get a yellow card right here. I don't mind that in certain moments, and Kyle did that. When we didn't have him, we had a hard time. It was difficult, and no disrespect to our other midfielders. Without Kyle Scott in the midfield, we struggled. If we have Kyle Scott against Colorado Springs, it's a totally different outcome. I guarantee you it's a different outcome on that match. We probably come away winning that. And if you look at who won the championship, if we sort of follow in that we can knock out the champions, we would have moved on. We could have potentially been champions. Unfortunately, Kyle Scott was injured. Part of that is because he was asked to do so much in 2024, and his body just wore down at the wrong time. Hey, you can hate me, you can love me, but you got to agree with me. A+ for Kyle Scott this year. DK, introduce our next grades.
Cameron Dunbar. One of the players that if you were in the stands and people had some frustrations with him throughout the season, I was always a fan. I was always pushing forward. Just wait, you'll see. Cameron Dunbar. Matches played 33, starts 22, 2,500, 39 minutes, 2 goals, 5 assists, shots 64, shots blocked 18, and 1 yellow card. Brad, I am interested to hear how you felt about Cameron Dunbar this season.
Oh boy, man, the harsh streak of me continues with Dunbar. Dunbar, I think, had a case of the could not finish on any opportunity given to him, no matter how good it was. He always seemed to get blocked. I don't know if that's just poor finishing skills. But look, he's probably the best ball handler on the team and very extremely talented in his own right. So it really hurts me to say that I gave him probably the worst grade out of all my starter tier players at a C+. I'll pass it over to Ray.
Please, Brad, call me by my correct name. I guess you're not going to do it. If for those not watching live, it says fix Brad's glasses, because a C+ for Cameron Dunbar. Are you kidding me? I know he missed some shots that probably should have gone in, but did you not watch what he was doing? He was still involved in a lot of the plays. And let's not forget, he had an amazing assist in the first round of the playoffs, which has to bump up his grade like a full letter grade. So, Brad, you got to at least bump it up into the B's for that. Yes, we could have seen more out of Cameron. Yes, he didn't do maybe what many of us were expecting, but he still was quality for Orange County. I went with a B for Cameron in 2024. Dylan, come on. You're more on my side than Brad's, right?
Well, Brad, please. I think you wanted to say something.
I'm pretty sure I get a legal rebuttal for this. I'll keep it quick. I don't think my grade's that unjustified. He is very, very, very talented. And at the end of the day, Madden rules, you got to score to win. And he scored twice.
All right. That's
so here,
great.
I'm going to say this really quick,
Dylan.
Dylan, really quick, Dylan. People, jump in the chats, share your thoughts. And I want to hear what my fellow co-hosts think on this, and we'll see who is correct after we hear from everyone else.
Hey guys, sorry, C+ player Cameron Dunbar just skinning the whole right side of New Mexico's team over and over and over again. Oh, here he is, C+ player Cameron Dunbar skinning the Pittsburgh defense. Oh, look at him. He's on the ball again. C+ player here. Don't worry. He's not going to assist anything. He's not going to do anything. Oh, no. It's Cameron Dunbar. Guys, he might not have scored, but, the same way that the ball went through Kyle Scott, the ball went through Cameron Dunbar. Cameron Dunbar would get on the ball. A team would have to put 2 people on him. And as he proved time and time and time again, that does not stop him Would I like to see him be more clinical? Yes. Were most of his shots from distance? Yes. But we're talking about someone that's going to progress the ball with the ball at his feet. You need players like that just to kind of bridge that gap between a Kyle Scott and an Ethan Zubak. I'm giving him a B+. Also, he was there just over and over and over again. He was there. So, Brad, so sorry, but this is actually not a courtroom, so you don't get a legal rebuttal. I'm not even sure we're going to have you say any other grades because you've clearly lost all of your validity. DK, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, Cameron Dunbar, I think, falls into that hole of people expected a lot more from him. And I think maybe that's where Brad is coming from. And maybe that's why he was as harsh as he was, or as wrong as he was when it comes down to it. But Cameron Dunbar, I think, was a bright spot for this team, regardless of our offensive woes throughout the season. One thing that I personally complained about, all season long was like, take shots. Can somebody just take shots, take some chances and go for it? And Dunbar was the one player on the pitch who would. And he had the footwork to make those chances open. And 5 assists, that's our leading assist player for the season. And, counting the fantastic assist he had in Memphis on that wonderful playoff win. I'm also going to go for B+, because I think that although we all expected maybe a little bit more goals from him, I think he was a fantastic presence on the field. And if we're lucky enough to get him for next season, I think those 64 shots that he has on target are going to convert into a lot more goals. So B+ from me.
I'm going to jump in here, and I feel bad for Cameron, and I want to up his average. So I'm going to do a B+ as well, because we need to make up for Brad's horrible grading, where he gives our assist leader a C grade. Our assist leader a C grade. Yeah, it's only 5 assists, but it's still the leader on the team, and he goes with a C. I try to give Brad a chance to redeem himself by saying the C was for Cameron, not for his actions on the pitch, but he didn't go for it. And Brad, the person that's been agreeing with you most of this episode even agreed with DK, me, and Dylan going with a B for Cameron.
I am pointing at my comment, which is on the screen. I doubled down in the comments. Dunbar is Diet Milan, and you cannot change my mind about that. He is talented, but Milan did everything better.
All right, Dylan, I need to see one of your
Not
classic
the footwork.
Photoshop jobs and making a soda can of Diet Milan. Go for it, Dylan. We got to move on for time constraints, but Dylan, get a
DK. No. I want to hear from the man who signed him. DK, please.
We want Zubak. Ethan Zubak. Yeah, it's been kind of a running joke with the CLC this whole season that I'm the one who signed Ethan, because the whole beginning of the season, I was like, just wait, guys. Kind of similar to Cameron Dunbar. Just wait. He'll do something. He'll progress. You guys will see it. Just give him time. And everybody would churn to me every time he made a mistake. But Ethan Zubak, our leading goal scorer for the 2024 season, matches played 34, starts 24, 2,268 minutes, 10 goals, 2 assists. I don't know what SOT means. But duels won, 158, and 5 yellow cards. Shots on target. That makes a lot of sense. I couldn't think of it in the moment.
It's okay, guys. We got English degrees. We don't do math. We don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I'm not looking at stats all the time. I gave Ethan Zubak, one of my favorite players from this season, and super excited that he was just announced to be returning this for 2025. I gave him a B+. Because, all jokes aside, he did have a really rough start of the season. But I think if you look at anybody in their shift between 2 halves of a year, Ethan is the best in that regard. So our leading goal scorer did fantastic. I think he really just needed that confidence boost, and can't wait to see what he does for us in 2025. Ray, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to go next on this. I'm going to jump in for Idiot Zubac here. I think he was solid first. Yes, he struggled early on in the season, but he found his form to the point of he scored goals for us. Our leading goal scorer in 2024. And yes, we could have expected more out of him, but he still was solid. He did a good job. And I went with a B for him for everything you said, DK. He was great for Orange County. Now I'm going to pass it over to Brad, and I want to hear how our leading goal scorer should get a C on this grade as well. Go for it, Brad.
No, actually, I gave a better grade than I think all of you guys did for Zubac. Look, it
You're just-
wasn't
you're just-
pretty.
You're just throwing grades and just hoping.
I'm
that-
a
it's like
harsh
shaking the
grader.
dice.
I never once said that Dunbar was a bad player. I said I expected more. Zubac was on his way to also earning a C grade until he figured it out. And I think, honestly, we don't make it into the playoffs if Zubac doesn't score so much of his goals down the stretch when we finally get Danny Stone in charge. I think if we had a last 10 game of the season MVP, it's Shuttler, who's probably coming up next, or the guy after. And then it's Zubac, because Zubac was scoring and he was finding out how to do it. He was heading in goals. He was dumpster diving for goals. And that's kind of the player we expected when the team signed him and said, watch this guy as a 10-goal scorer at least. And I think we all drank the Kool-Aid at the beginning of the season and started not believing in Zubac. But late on, he really proved himself. And DK and I are the only Zubac truthers on this team. I gave him an A-.
Hey, I'm going to jump in really quick, Brad, and say, hey, I believed in Ethan early on in the season. If you go back to episodes early on the season, I was the one saying he's working hard to win the ball in the air, but when he heads it down, none of his teammates are there to receive those passes, and it was on his teammates. So I don't want you to take credit and say you were jumping on it. I was on the Ethan bandwagon way before any of y'all were, except for maybe DK, because apparently he was in love with Ethan before the season started. Brad, what do you have? I mean, not Brad, Dylan, what do you have?
Thanks, Ray.
Y'all look
We've
the same
been
today,
doing this
so.
for 6 years. What do you mean? Man, to anybody that's just only ever listened to the show, I'd really love if you looked at a photo of Brad and looked at a photo of me. I can't grow a
Dark hair,
beard.
glasses, hey.
I have almost nothing to say to this. Ethan Zubac got a B+ for me. I'm glad he came good at the end of the season. I'm hoping we get mustache Ethan next year. Stash Summer 2025. I'll just take the next one. Hey, yes.
Don't forget Larry. Don't forget Larry.
Oh, we care about what he after his last grade. B++, which is not a real grade, but sure. Thank you, Larry. On to our next player. Is this going to be the first unanimous A? I wonder. I gave him an A. Colin Shuttler, 28 matches. I mean, he's obviously not coming out as a sub. 2,520 minutes, 97 saves, 13 clean sheets, which goals against averages out to 1.25 goals per game. And in case you forgot, all those many months ago in Sacramento, he also scored a goal this year, which is one of the craziest moments I've ever witnessed. Oh, man. I gave him an A. Ray, I feel like you might have something really, really stupid to say. So, oh, good. You're laughing. So
you're putting
you
the
definitely
pressure
have
on.
You have something so dumb that's going to come out of your mouth. Everybody
You're
enjoy the
putting the
last thing, Ray.
pressure.
He's going to give him a
Everything to say on
G
this show.
for goal. You know he's going to give him a G for goal.
I love that
Give me
y'all
an
are
effort
expecting
far
that.
out, man. Yeah. Everyone, without further ado, the last words Ray Samora will ever say on the Orange Black Soccer Cast.
Well, you put so much pressure on. This is going to be the first that we all agree on. So that's where I was a little bit nervous. For those that don't know, everyone else has their grades out in the open for people to see. I have it, grayed out so people can't see unless they go and hover on it. Then they can see what I graded. I loved Colin Shuttler this year. Shutout Shuttler is an amazing goalkeeper for Orange County. I'm glad he's back for 2025. There were a couple moments, though, where he looked a little shaky. There were a couple moments where he probably should have made a save that he didn't make. I understand goalkeeping is a tough position. It's the worst position to really play in soccer because you get all the credit when your team is doing good. You get all the the heat when your team is struggling. Even really, I tell my goalies, it's the defense's fault when you give up goals. It's not always your fault. But there were a couple saves that I think he missed throughout the season. Thus, I could not 100% agree with each and every one of you on here, but I did still go in the A's. I gave him an A- for 2024. DK, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Ray. I do think that, he had some shaky moments. But I think that really only pulls him from, being the 1 A+ that I could have given to the A that I did end up giving him. I think Shuttler was fantastic this season. I think he was fantastic last season. I think if you really put them together, that he's the best keeper in Orange County history. And I'll debate anybody on that. And obviously his goal was one of the best moments that I've witnessed live watching soccer up in Sacramento. So that, definitely gives him a little bit of a boost. But I really do think that Colin Shuttler is one of the most underrated keepers of the entire USL Championship. And, was one of my biggest wish lists of that we get back next season. And luckily we got that announcement last Thursday. So Colin Shuttler will be with us for 2025. And I really do only think that he's going to keep improving with his confidence, with his skills. So I can't wait to see him get just keeper of the year for the league next year.
And I'm going to say this really quick, DK. You gave me an idea for next year, just so you know, with your wish list comment. I'm going to tease it right now. We're not going to release what that idea is, but I'm going to make it happen next year, just so y'all know.
Oh, also second best chant from the CLC goes to Colin Shuttler, courtesy of Chuck Eldridge.
Awesome chant. Awesome chant.
Did we get Larry's thoughts on Colin? In case we all missed it, he did give him an A. So
All
we
right.
almost had a unanimous A, but someone just had to be different.
I had to throw mine.
Okay.
I gave him I did an A. What did Brad do?
Well, hold on.
Brad can't
we're
go-
about to
yeah.
find out. Brad doesn't get to talk
Brad-
because
No,
Brad, are
after
you going to
Cameron
ruin?
Dunbar shout?
no, I'm not going to ruin this. You know what?
Brad,
I had
can
an
you-
A.
Take the heat off of me that I'm not the only one that ruins this, right? Agree with me.
All right. So I've been waiting all this time to boo this man. I should have changed my name to be Ray Can't Save. Anyways, it's a PG podcast here. I don't know what Ray was looking at this season. Sure, he made a couple bad saves. When you take the 6-goal Charleston game out, Colin Shuttler averages a 1.07 GAA and 13 clean sheets, most of those coming late on in the season. I have to save Colin Shuttler's stellar grade, so I upgraded mine from an A to an A+, so that the average goes up to an A, and Ray's blemish is off this show forever.
Oh my
well,
Gosh,
after.
Brad.
So
Ugh.
no, he is worthy of the A+, much more than the players that you gave an A+. And don't get me wrong, they're great players, but Colin Shuttler is the reason that this team got into the playoffs, besides Zubac's goals down the stretch. And I think we have one more player to talk about, and we've already wasted enough time entertaining Ray's ideas. So that player is Mr. Owen Lamb, I believe. Yes, Owen Lamb. 34 games, 34 starts, and I'm just going to be quick with him. He is a stellar player. I really wish we got the offensive juggernaut out of Owen Lamb that I think we get. He scores some insane goals that should honestly win goal of the year or assist of the year. And we see him in the 2 years we've had him. We've seemed to be, accepting that he will score those crazy goals. And I gave him a B+ for this season. DK, what'd you give him?
I gave him an A. I think he was one of the best players on the pitch, and he played and started in every single game. I don't even know if he was ever subbed out. Owen Lamb, fantastic. Only scores bangers, only assist bangers. Yeah, I can't really say much more. Just definitely one of the best players that we have. So a solid A for me.
I'll jump in right here. I'm going to jump in. Brad, you don't know if he was ever subbed off. Well, if he played the full 34 matches, it would have been 3,060 minutes. So he did get subbed off at some point or didn't play the full amount of time. Brad,
I didn't
what do
hear
you?
that.
I'm sorry,
that.
DK. DK said that.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just thinking, Brad, you're crazy because of your crazy grading here today. Here's what I'm going to say with this, with Owen. And I do want to say, Bryce and Kyle, get on Brad here because he's like bashing you all for me giving you A pluses this year. Didn't think you deserved those. So get on Brad on that, Bryce and Kyle. And also, Owen, jump on it for Brad too, because I gave you an A plus. Owen was, for me, the best player of 2024 for Orange County. Consistent on the pitch, played every match like DK said, scored goals, assists, had some amazing passes. Thus he's an amazing player for Orange County. I think if he wasn't a right back, if he was a right wing, or if he was more of an attacking player, people would notice him more. But he's a right back. Sometimes you're hidden in that. But what he did from that position, just like Dogman did on the other side, but Owen did it more consistently for the whole season. And for me was player of the year. I gave him an A plus. Whoever wants to go next that hasn't given a grade yet, go for it. Cause I'm over this.
You're
I
over
think
this?
it's you, Dylan.
Is it because you give him
Brad's
such
got me
bad
so
grade?
frustrated with his crazy grading.
Oh, poor Ray. I gave Owen an A. He's one of two people. I'm sure there's one I'm missing, or some I'm missing, but he is one of two players to ever play, basically an entire season for Orange County. Michael Roscoe was the other one to do it. He only missed 3 minutes, and as our beloved producer Andy put in a moment ago, he played all but 6 minutes against New Mexico, and he played 57 minutes against Charleston, which. I like to pretend that match never happened, obviously. It's probably best we all do. Owen deserves an A, and just his availability through such a torrid year of injuries was really something good for the team to rely on, and also just really something special. I hope he can kind of repeat that next year. Hopefully he doesn't have to play every single minute, but he absolutely has proven that he is a great right back at this level, and can do it defensively and can do it going forward as well. Did we get Larry's? Did we care? No, I'm just kidding. We don't care. Larry gave B. No, we don't care because Well, I don't know what happened at the end of this grading. I don't know if this was grading fatigue or what, but Owen Lamb is not a B player.
A B. Oh man. By all means, I love y'all. It's no disrespect to y'all. This is just all fun and games right here when we're talking about this. But honestly, y'all just don't know how to grade. I'm the only one that knows how to grade properly. I believe we're doing the coaches really quick here. And when I say coaches, there's multiple coaches. So let's get to the start here. Morton Carlson started the season with Orange County. A lot of expectations from the fans, from the club, from the team. And we look at him. I forget if we're doing this the U.S. style or the world style as far as the wins, draws, and losses. So Dylan, clarify it for me.
This is wins, this is wins, draws, and losses, because that is the only thing that makes sense, because you go.
That's the proper way to do it. That is the way you do it. I don't know why when you look at the USL website and stuff like that, it's always like wins, losses, draws, or something like that.
Because they're the Florida man of professional soccer leagues. I'm just kidding. That's NISA.
So you look at that, a result in more than 50% of the matches, but 7 losses during that time with Orange County. The reason he left is he got a good opportunity in his home country, which Orange County didn't want to stand in the way for that. But if you look at it, it wasn't having the greatest season, the greatest start to the season. I think it was like, if you take away the first 4 weeks of the season, it was pretty horrendous, actually, when you look at the results from Orange County there. I was disappointed in what Morton Carlson did for as the coach for Orange County. And for me, that relates to a C grade. And that's being nice for me. Brad is shocked with that grade. Brad, what do you got?
A C, given the injuries that Morton Carlson had towards the end of his tenure. Plus, we transferred him to a league in Denmark, which is definitely transferring up. No disrespect to the USL. I give Morten Carlson a B for this. It's not the best. I think we lost a couple games that we should have lost, and we won some games that we should have won. But I don't really look back and say Morten Carlson really set us up in a bad spot for the rest of the year.
I'll just jump in because Brad's again not passed it along. I'm going to give him a B minus. I think a lot of the struggle that Orange County had was down to injuries, and he's not the fitness coach, so I'm not sure that particularly falls on him. He was kind of a victim of bad luck, but he had earned the right for the club to stand by him. And obviously a bit of regression on the year prior. Ray would like me to know that results fall on the coach, and I'm well aware of that. But to echo Brad, he did not put us in a bad spot. Typically, it takes teams time to get going. And when necessary, we played very pragmatic footy, which was not necessarily exciting to watch. But when you're missing, half of your starting lineup, sometimes that's necessary. DK.
Yeah, I also agree B minus. Yeah, sure, results fall on the coach, and I think he would agree with that as well. But I think when you're early on in the season, less than halfway through, that there's time to turn things around. And I do think that Morten is somebody that could have turned things around with his style of play, regardless of our injuries. I think we went through kind of a rough stretch, but, Carlson was somebody that I trusted in, and I would have trusted in throughout the entire season, regardless of what happened. So I give him a B minus, and really excited that he was one of our, transfers into a higher league. And I think he fully deserved it.
Can I just jump on? I want to refresh each and every one of y'all's memory, and for our listeners, go back and listen to previous episode. I think most of you, if not all of you, were bashing some of our tactics early on in the season. And I believe we were getting complaints about this hoofball or just, knocking it down the pitch, which, don't get me wrong, I understand the frustration, but that was what Coach Carlson was asking the team to do early on in the season. So I don't see how y'all are being so forgiving for that when you all were a little frustrated with the style of play that Orange County was showcasing early on in the season. That's all I just want to call, because y'all seem to really love him.
We've called B minus a really harsh grade on many of the players. So I don't think a B minus is really saying that he was like a fantastic performance either.
Let's just remember, grading C is average. So B minus means he was doing better than average. When you look at it, 50% of his results were losses pretty much. So, and there was complaints about the style. Again, I love the guy. He was awesome. I love what he did in 2023. I think part of your grades are remembering back to 2023 and not really looking at 2024 only. Moving on though. And I'm not giving anyone else a chance to fight back on that. We're going to move on to the other coach that took over. Paul Hardiman came over as he was the director of the youth or the academy team and developing the academy, came up, stepped into the head coaching role when Morten Carlson left for brighter or bigger opportunities. I think a lot of us were really hopeful and really excited and really wanted this to be successful. Unfortunately, you look at the stats again, 2 wins, 1 draw, 7 losses. And I believe Paul Hardiman was in charge against Charleston. It was a 0-6 result for Orange County. They didn't score 6. They only scored 0. Very difficult tenure for him. And unfortunately, again, like I said, coaches take have to take responsibility. They're the ones responsible for the results, and the results weren't what we wanted to see. Brad, let's hear your crazy grade. Go for it.
I feel like I'm the most fondly looking back on the Hardiman era. I think Hardiman ball is solid concept, but with the personnel we had, and sure, injuries had a part to do in it. We very much underperformed under Hardiman, and therefore I'm going to give him a C.
So
I'll pass
Brad
it off
thought
to
he was
someone.
average. Brad thought he was average. Who are we passing it on to, Brad?
Dylan.
Yeah, I have to echo the C here. Look, this team was decimated by injuries by the time that Paul Hardiman took over, and Yeah, we couldn't score a goal. I actually don't think that falls on him because we had opportunities that weren't converted. And unless you expect, I believe, a 60-year-old man to run on out there and get the job done himself, there's not a lot he can do about that. Still, it was disappointing, and I don't think, maybe for the senior side, we're in a better spot at the end of the year because, we got kind of a fresh perspective and a fresh idea and a fresh face in after that 6-0 loss in Charleston. But, he had a really good impact on the youth players of this team, and he had a really good impact on developing and getting those players minutes. DK?
Yeah, absolute club legend, really brought our academy up out of nowhere into what it is today, which has been producing players after players. That alone makes him a legend. Assistant coach for the 2021 season. That alone makes him a legend. Has been an assistant coach for the past few years. And not including all of that, I think I am still going to credit him for being an assistant coach for the beginning part of the season with Morten Carlson. Also stepping up when Morten Carlson got a red card and was suspended and won a huge game against Detroit 3-2 as the head coach. So I'm going to add like a 3-1-7 there. And I am going to give him a C-, a little bit less than Dylan and Brad, but probably a little bit more than Ray based off of his facial expressions. I don't think that he had the best of luck. I don't think that it was all his fault, regardless of what Ray says in regards of results are the coach's fault. I think sometimes it's the players' faults too. But yeah, I love Paul. I wish that it was a better run for him. I wish that we got to see a little bit more from him, but I definitely understand the decision from him and the club. So a C- from me for the 2024 season, assistant and head coach.
You all are very nice. I'm just going to say that straight up. You all are very nice. I love the man. I love Paul Hardyman. He was amazing as a guest on our show. He did an amazing job for the academy, but I'm strictly grading him on the results when he was the head coach of the team. As a coach myself, I 100% take blame when the team doesn't succeed, regardless if it was the players just didn't play or I came in and didn't give them a proper game plan. I would almost assume Paul is the same mindset, regardless of what happened on the pitch, injuries, the way the players play. He's going to take full responsibility for the results on the pitch. And unfortunately, the results that I saw while he was on the pitch, I feel like he lost to the players. I feel like at the end of his tenure, the players were just tuned out. They weren't paying attention. They were done with it. And because if you look going from his last match to the first match of the next coach, it looked like night and day. So there was something going on there. And unfortunately, like I said, the coach is going to take ownership for that most of the time. The coach is not going to go call out the players for what they did or for not playing hard or for whatever it is. And unfortunately, again, the results showed for me. And I want to go back now and look at the history of our grades that since we've been doing this. I don't think I've ever gone this low. Maybe I have. We'll have to check it, but it's going to be a D+ for me for Paul Hardyman. And I hate to say it because I love the man. I love what he did for our academy, but strictly as the head coach for Orange County, I think it was a really a team in turmoil. And again, it's I don't think it's 100% because of what he was doing. I think the players shut it out. But again, as the coach, that's what I saw. Whew, last one. I know people are going to hate me for that one. I know my co-hosts hate me for that one. And I even felt bad saying D in front of anything because I don't think I've ever done a D grade. But moving on from Paul Hardyman, we moved to Danny Stone, which was a breath of fresh air for Orange County and their fans. Again, took basically a team towards the end of Paul Hardyman's tenure, went on and moved on, and Danny Stone turned the team around and really is the reason why this team went into the playoffs. They did an amazing job under Coach Danny Stone. They really succeeded. They really looked like a team that had a plan and were behind their coach 100%, which again, we didn't see towards the end of Paul Hardyman's tenure with the team. I'm gonna just jump in here and go first. I don't care what y'all think. I'm gonna give an A+ for Danny Stone in 2024 as coach. Dylan, you go.
I'm giving him an A. I think he did really well, and he really got the players to buy in. And he was also to give credit to Paul Hardiman and Morten Carlson, very fortunate that most of the team was fit when he took over. Still, he deserves the credit. 1.91 points per game is incredible, even if it was only over an 11 match run. DK.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. I definitely give Danny Stone an A. He, brought us out of a big slump this season. And as Dylan said, it was with a healthy squad, which is always going to be helpful for a coach to be able to work with. But I loved what Danny Stone was doing. I loved the tactics that he was doing. I love how he presented himself, not only during the matches, but also post matches and during training. He was very much a coach. When you saw interviews with him, that was a collective. It was all about the collective. If one person was shining, then it was the entire squad shining, whether that was him, an individual player, another coach, didn't matter. It was all about the team. And that's just really a culture that I love to see, and that I really hope that we get to see as this team progresses forward into 2025. So yeah, an A from me, from Danny Stone. True Mad Lad. And Brad closes out.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a stupid grade, but I'll explain
Oh, no.
why. I'm gonna give Danny Stone an A- until he signs on the dotted line to come back to us in 2025, in which case he can be an A+ in my heart and mind, like he deserves to be. This team made it to the playoffs because of Danny Stone, because of Colin Shuttler, and because of Ethan Zubak, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
A- because he hasn't signed for 2025 yet. I can't hate it.
Well, but who knows? I mean, are we blaming Danny Stone for not signing, or are we now saying, Brad, that that the club has even offered the position to Danny Stone? I mean, why would we penalize him for not signing if he's not even offered it? See,
I think the dog barking.
Even the dog agrees with me. So that's all I got to say there.
It's a solid way to close out.
Did we have a grade slide for the front office, or is this the end? I don't know. Who knows?
This is
I think that's the end.
Let's just do really quick. I want to hear what your thoughts. Grade. You don't even have to explain it. Let's just do a quick letter grade on the front office in 2024. Dylan. No
A+,
explanation.
Have a club.
All right, Brad.
B.
DK.
B. Lower beer prices for B.
I'm gonna go with an A-. I liked the makeup of the club. We just had some injury issues, but it looked like they tried to fill in some of that stuff when possible. With that said, that wraps up our grades for 2024. Feel free, please remember, go onto social media, agree with me, disagree with the rest of us on social media. Let the people know why I was the only one that gave legit good grades and why the rest of my co-hosts didn't know what they were talking about. If you didn't agree with me, go on there as well and let me know why I was wrong on that. I don't mind. I like getting the heat from that. Want to remind everyone to go to our website. Check it out, ocscpodcast.com. DK writes some great stuff. You could check some of that there. Dylan's written some stuff on there as well, so you could see some of that as on the website. Also, don't forget, our next week, we're doing our player awards, which means we need you all to vote. If you have not yet voted for our player awards, it's simple. Go to vote.ocscpodcast.com. This is separate from the Orange County Soccer Club awards that they do. We do our own thing. We started it first. We started back, I think, in 2019. I don't think we did it our very first year because we only around half a season, but maybe we did. Who knows? But we've been doing awards since the beginning or since early on. And we have some great categories, including what we introduced last year, Hall of Fame, where we are asking you to pick who are the all-time greatest players. And now we've even added coaching staff and front office to the votes on this. So we want to hear your voice on that. Let us know what you think. I know this was an extra long episode. We typically know this is going to happen when we do our grades because we want to definitely debate and talk about it. So we appreciate y'all hanging on and listening for the full episode. And join us next week for the award show for Dylan, for DK, for Was it Brad? Did we have Brad here? Brad was here. And for producer Andy, I want to thank you all. Well, I didn't see his face anymore, so I figured what happened. This has been the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. We are out.